Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be playing with products from the Christina Warner and Concord and Night collection. This is such a great card, you guys. So I'm going to start off with the Deco Star Easy Repeat background stamp. This is absolutely gorgeous. I've already had a chance to play with it. And we're also going to be using some sentiments from her collection as well. And this is going to be the Joyful and Merry stamp and die set. Absolutely so gorgeous. So today we're going to make a very pretty monochromatic holiday card. So I'm going to bring in my Misty, and for my background paper today, I'm using the Concord and Night Wildberry paper. This is such a gorgeous color paper, and it's going to work fabulous with our color palette for today. So with this Deco Star Easy background, you can repeat this background if you wanted to make a larger card. So I'm going to point something out to you. So you see at the top, you have those three like diamond shapes, and you see on the bottom of the stamp, you have three diamond shaped cutouts. If you wanted to make this larger, you stamp once, pick up your stamp, shift it down so the little diamond pieces go into the diamond openings at the bottom, and you can make a larger card panel. I want to thank Christina for doing this because sometimes I want to make 5x7 cards, but I don't have a stamp that's big enough. And this is actually brilliant. But for today, I'm going to be trimming down this card panel so I don't need to line anything up. So the color palette is going to be super pretty today. Again, I said this is going to be a monochromatic. So it's going to be the Wildberry color on top of the Wildberry color, but we're going to add some gold. So here I have my Altenew gold ink. This is a nice metallic ink, and that is really going to make this card such a stunner card. So I can go ahead and stamp this down. And then I'm going to have to stamp this a few times because I need a re-inker for this. And every time I think about it, I'm already live and I can't get my hands close to my re-inker. So I am going to have to stamp this quite a few times just for it to show up. So I will use my little Chucky tool here just to kind of press that ink into the paper. Now this is still going to be a little bit faint, but you can see it. But we're going to end up putting some embossing powder on this. So I'm not going to worry if I don't have that ink saturated in all the spots. Because once we cover it up with the embossing powder, we're going to be just fine. So for the embossing powder today, I am going to use the Altenew. I believe this is antique gold. And I'll go ahead and sprinkle that on. Now, anytime I'm doing embossing powder, I kind of like to let the embossing powder hang out on the cardstock before I just go ahead and dump it off. So as you can see, I'm kind of slowly tapping this around before I go ahead and I tilt it down and I knock off all the embossing powder. This allows me to get a little bit of a better coverage. Now I can go ahead and start heating this up. If you guys have been here on the channel for a while, you notice that I heat from the back and the front, and that just helps the embossing powder heat up a little bit quicker, and also it keeps my paper from bowing. But as you can see, this gold on this mulberry paper is going to make one gorgeous card. And you can see after this is heat set, look how gorgeous that Deco Star Easy Repeat background looks. Absolutely stunning. All right, I want to add a little bit of gold splatter to this. So I have my Fine Tech metallic watercolors. I'm just going to go ahead and spritz some water onto this. Now, you can totally skip this step, but I felt like having a little bit more movement in the background of this. So I went ahead and I did a few sprays of water on just a few of the gold colors. I'm going to kind of mix them and then go ahead and splatter them onto my card. Because I don't have a color that matches exactly to the embossing powder, I kind of like to mix two colors together to kind of get that perfect shade that I need when I do my splattering like this. Again, you don't have to do this on this simple monochromatic card. You can totally forgo this, but I think it just gives a little bit of more movement in the background. Now I went ahead and just set that aside and let it dry. And now I'm going to come in with the older product from Christina. And this is the more thin frames. I want to die cut out just the center of this image. Remember earlier I said I was going to trim this down. I like using these dies because it gives me a softer edge compared to if I would just trim this down with my paper cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on to my Empress mats. As you can see, they are very well loved. And I'll go ahead and line this up. Now, once I have this lined up, I can go ahead and run this through my die cutting machine. Now you will see here, I didn't have much loss on this. I die cut out just the center, and then I just have this little thin frame that if I wanted to hold on to it, I could use it for something else. But for today, we're just going to go ahead and set that aside. Now remember, I said this is a monochromatic card, so I'm going to back this on the same Wildberry paper. And look how gorgeous that looks. And it gives me this nice little border all the way around. But it some kind of looks like I could have just stamped it right in the middle and masked everything off on the side. But I like to have just that little bit of separation of paper. Now I do want to stamp out a sentiment, and I'm going to use, or I'm going to grab my Joyful and Merry stamp set. Remember, this is still from the September 2025 release, and I'm also going to grab a sub sentiment. Within this stamp set, you're going to have some larger words as well as some great sub sentiments. So I'll go ahead and place that down, leaving myself just enough room so I can die cut this out. Now I am going to stamp it in the same gold because we want this card to match all the way through to give us that really pretty monochromatic color. So I'm going to be stamping in the same gold ink from Altenew, and I'm also going to be heat setting it with that antique gold embossing powder from Altenew. Now again, I'm heating from the front and the back. Now at this point, it doesn't matter if this paper bowed or not because I'm not using the whole piece of paper. But now I can go ahead and grab the coordinating dies and run this through my die cut machine. Now I would suggest, especially for these larger words, to grab that coordinating die. It really does make a difference when you can have a nice die cut of this joyful here. I just think it looks so pretty. Now for this card, I knew one is going to be monochromatic, so we're going to have that same color palette throughout. But I did want to make sure that I raised this up a little bit off my card, and I'm going to show you why. So if I were to just place the joyful down directly onto the card panel, it kind of gets lost. You see it, but I need to have that raised up a little bit, just so I can give myself a little bit of depth in that top sentiment. The bottom sentiment, we're okay, but that top one needs to be elevated just a little bit so it's sitting up off of that background. Now, instead of using foam tape, I die cut out this sentiment 4 additional times. And this is going to allow me to have 5 layers. And that's really going to give me just enough lift in order to have this just thick enough to get that sentiment raised up. So as you can see, I went ahead and I put on some liquid glue. I'll put on some liquid glue on the second one. And I find by doing this technique, it kind of makes it so much easier for me to put my sentiments together is by stacking them exactly how I did it here. So I can go ahead and press those all together. And look how thick this is. This is nice and sturdy now. Now, when I bring this over to the card, you see the sentiment is raised up. It looks better. It does not get lost on this card panel. And I just want to make sure when I place this down, I have everything where I want it to be and exactly how I thought about it in my head. And look how pretty this card is, you guys. Oh, I just love when a card comes together exactly how I planned it in my head. So I went ahead and put down the first layer onto white card panel. This is a standard size card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I can go ahead and lay down that centerpiece. And look how gorgeous this is. It is absolutely stunning. And this is going to be our card for today. Look how gorgeous this is. Now I just want to trim off a little bit of the white card that's showing just a little bit at the bottom. Now, don't forget that I have a few more cards listed over on my Instagram that you can check out, as well as my blog. This is going to finish up the card video for today. And if you would like to see a couple more videos, here they are right here. You can click on them and go ahead and watch. I'll see you guys in another video soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.